I'm here with George Bryan. The power just went off. So we are cobbling together a lighting system because we just want to keep talking. Is that okay with you? I'm seeing flashes in my eyes from this light.
Yeah, this light is great. I was just thinking about, the effect. If you just like pull your head back, you can do the Bela Lugosi effect. Yeah. What do you want to talk? The story of the Tucker car. We had a Tucker car. If anybody knows what a Tucker was or is.
You want to explain a little bit?
Tucker, he started a car company. He was an engineer, and he started this car company in probably about 48, 49. And they designed the car of the future. And it was a rear-engined, a full-size car, 3 headlights. The doors opened up into the roof.
It had the headlight right in the middle, right?
Yeah, the Cyclops headlight that turned with the steering wheel, so it'd shine around the corner when you're turning the car. It had disc brakes, torsion bar suspension. It was made to go fast. It had and they built these prototype models. They built 51 of them. And my dad got his hands on one of them from a guy that was going to be a dealer. And then it all collapsed. The large auto companies tied him up in court and basically bankrupted him before he could get any further. But he did make these 51 cars, and we had number 19. My father bought it. He had some money in his pocket, and he bought this car. He loved cars, but he was running for Congress. He was going to run for Congress, and this is down in Walla Walla. And he thought that if he had that car, that he would project himself as being a modern kind of guy.
Futuristic.
Futuristic. They're going to take you into the future,
right, kind
of thing. And so he gets the car. And the problem is that when we drive, this is a prototype. It had a helicopter engine in it, opposing 6 in the rear. And it all looks really good, and like I say, it was really fast. But electronic transmission, no drive line, so that the floors are flat. It had a safety dash, so you could, anti-crash. If you crashed into the dash, you'd get less hurt. Had quite a few of these features in it, but he would drive the car out, had his name painted on the side.
For Congress or whatever?
Yeah, for Congress. W.D. Bryan for Congress on the side of this. We got a picture of this car with his sign on it. But you drive the car out, and then we got pictures of the car coming back, and then one of them, it shows the tow rope out from underneath it, because it wouldn't run very far. It'd go really fast, but then it would stop running, and nobody knew how to work on it. It was just, and everybody wanted to. That was a real problem. A mechanic got near that car, and they started pulling stuff out and looking at this and looking at that, my job when we went to the parades and took it around was to sit in the car to keep people from getting in and pulling the knobs off. Because people would just come and get in the car. It was a little bit different. They didn't seem to see anything wrong with that. He didn't get elected, and we end up going to Montana. The car comes with us. It ends up being stored out there in a barn somewhere. He took me aside. My dad would take me aside and make propositions. He was pretty good at that, and they were usually trouble. But he told me that I could have the Tucker. It would be my car if I would quit school and come to work on the ranch. Simple, just quit school and come to work. And so we made a deal, and I can have the Tucker. And so we made a deal not to say anything to my mother, which would have queered the whole deal. Right. And I came out and went to work on the ranch and considered the Tucker mine. And somewhere along the line in here, a couple of my friends and I are drinking beer in town, and I tell them I have a Tucker. Well, they intimated that I was a liar.
Okay.
You're just, so we drank some more beer. And then I said, this is about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said, well, let's go get the Tucker. So the Tucker was in Melrose. It was about 30, 40 miles away at my great aunt's barn. And we're with these drunk kids. We go out there and we get her up and we get the Tucker out and we get it started. And we take off in the Tucker at 1 or 2 in the morning heading up. We go up to the divide. We go up on top of the Continental Divide with the Tucker. And it's running fine, except we can't make the lights work, you know. So it's a black car with no lights in the middle of the night, but the moon's really bright there, you know. You can see really well, except you can't see us. And we're coming off the divide, and it's a cold night, cool air, downhill, straight. I mean, I hold the top speed land record in a Tucker on 2-lane blacktop. I have no doubt about that.
Really?
That car flew. We came off of there, 3 drunk kids in a Tucker, and coming, you know, just burning up the road, no lights, and we hit this corner. There's like one corner, and I did not prepare for that at all. And I ended up, I had to go for the inside because I knew that I was going off the road. And so I was in on the inside of the corner. I'm just sliding through this corner, and here comes a semi.
Oh, gee.
In the other side of the corner. And that driver, he saved us because he just took the barrel pit. He just took the truck right off the road, and we just slid right past the tail end of that truck. Just shoosh. If he hadn't gone for the ditch, we would be dead. And we would have totaled a Tucker, which is maybe worse. and that's going to last you a lot longer than just killing yourself in a car.
Right.
Yeah, he took out the Tucker when he did that.
Insult to injury right there.
So we just keep going, you know, and we know I'm in trouble. I know we're in trouble. We know, we think we are. And so we got the car back, and we got it ditched again, and we part company. We all go to our ranches, you know, we all kind of disappear out there. 2 days later, and I left for the coast. I immediately left for the coast with my dad. And the day after, the sheriff shows up on the ranch looking for me. And my mom, she didn't know anything about it. She hadn't heard anything about it. Here comes the sheriff looking for me. And so she's kind of quizzing him about, how, and he said, "Excuse me, ma'am, when they're driving a Tucker, they're not hard to find."
Yeah.
There's not a lot of detective work here.
Right.
And apparently, obviously, the truck driver saw a Tucker come down.
Right.
We all like, "Oh, Christ, yeah."
Like the 51 made, right?
Yeah, right,
There's one in the state, right?
Here comes the Tucker. And so that was the end of me and the Tucker. It wasn't my car anymore. He just took the Tucker back, and obviously it was never mine in the first place. But that was my driving experience with the Tucker. I one time. Well, I have one other record that I hold with a Tucker, which is a city corner. I have done a city corner at 60 miles an hour in the Tucker, downtown Dillon.
Really?
Yeah, 60 miles an hour. That was one of the things.
Sober or?
Yeah.
You were sober?
Yeah, just kids. I mean, we decided that was part of the thing with the car. They advertised, or they said that this car will take a city corner at 60 miles an hour.
So you were going to prove it.
So we proved it, and it did. And halfway through the corner, I thought maybe it wouldn't, but I thought we were right downtown. There's buildings, there's parking meters, there's parked cars, there's everything. We come flying through this corner, and I had a guy with me, Terry, who came later over to see. He was here about a year ago. Came to see me, and he and I went over to the LeMay Museum, and they got a Tucker sitting on the floor.
That's right, yeah.
And so he and I tell the people at the museum the story of. He was with me when we did the 60 mile an hour corner. Yeah, so I got a witness that we took that. Yeah, it was fun, and they're all like, "Oh my God." Huh. Yeah, crazy. Just kids. We never hurt anybody, and never hurt another. I'm just really thankful for
you
that.
Were lucky.
Yeah, just extremely lucky.
You're lucky. You can thank the
truck
driver.
Yeah. Thank the truck driver. He called the sheriff, but I don't blame him for that.
No, you needed to be stopped.
Stop these people. Yeah. Well, and then my dad ended up taking the Tucker. I go into the military, and then he left Montana to L.A. He was in the process of he started to sue the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System is the fourth branch of government not called for in the Constitution. So he became an activist over that issue. And he went to L.A. to put together his organization, and the only car he had was this Tucker.
Oh, so he took it to LA?
He took it to
And
LA.
it made it there.
Oh, well, that's the story. Is that he had a new Cadillac, but I had totaled it,
Oh, of course. You
and
did.
it was uninsured.
Of course you did.
And then so he's left with this Tucker. And he has to go to L.A. I'm gone. I'm already in the
you're
military.
yeah.
See, because that's how I went in the military.
Well, but he had a hand in that, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
He sent me in
not
there.
like you bailed on him.
No, it was his idea. He wanted that, and I'm glad he did. But he takes the Tucker, and he's got his mother, my mom, and him in the Tucker going to L.A. in the winter. They could only get it in high gear. It had hydraulic windows, and all the windows fell.
Okay.
So they're in the car with no windows up, and they can only drive it in high gear. And they're going from Butte, Montana.
Probably going through Barstow and Needles and all that, where it's 100.
Yeah, everywhere they go, and they apparently there was a story about how they got down in a dip and they couldn't get the car back up. So he would get it as high as he could, and then he would be in reverse, and he would drive it as fast as he could back up to the other dip, and then he would get it going again. And it took him 3 shots to make it out over the dip. That was probably in Nevada somewhere. There's some of those places out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets it to L.A. and he finds a garage. He gets it in a garage, and they're working on it. And the mechanics working on this car was awful because none of them knew anything about it. And they all wanted to work on it. Right. So they'd always made everything worse. And the story is that he had it in the garage. There's a man walking down the street, sees the tail of the car sticking out of the garage where it is. He walks in, my dad's standing there, and he buys it from him for $1,200. My dad just, was sick of this car. Give me it.
Well, $1,200, you can buy a pretty good replacement.
Well, he had paid $2,500 for it. He sold it for $1,200, and the last one I heard sold for $2.5 million.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you know if that Tucker's still around? There's no way.
Yeah, no, it is. It's the one that was in the San Diego Museum.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And that was number 19.
That was number 19. And if you saw a Tucker in the San Diego Balboa Museum, that was the Tucker. And the people that owned it took it out and have since sold it to somebody else. That's where the $2.5 million comes from. They got over $2 million for that car.
Boy, they did a full restoration, I'm sure, too, didn't they?
Didn't have to.
This was clean?
Yeah, it didn't have to. It had nothing, there wasn't anything to do with it. Just, and even if it would have been, still would have been worth the same amount of money.
Yeah.
You cannot have.
Right.
The LeMays apparently have 2 of them, which is really rare. And they had to be, I'm sure they had to pay big bucks for them. But it's an extremely rare car now.
Yeah.
And I own the World Land 2-lane blacktop.
And cornering.
The corner, I don't know. The Luck, certainly the Luck trophy. I've got the Luck trophy, and I've got the Top Speed trophy on the 2-lane blacktop.
There you go. It's a power outage. Once again with George Bryan, there's a power outage and we're cobbling together the best we can. George is talking. I'm laughing and listening. So there.
Oh yeah, well I could tell somebody's, you have to censor some of these stories before you even start.
Well, as we talked about, we have to.
You can't.
All names and places have been changed to protect the innocent or whatever. Not necessarily.
Well, you don't want to see your grandfather in a Speedo. And it's just all there is to it. And then this kind of stuff can do that, without knowing it, without realizing our brains are this way, talk.
Right.
But I hadn't really thought about it as a story, or so I'm not sure how long. I don't really know about this one, but when I first came to the ranch, I had gone over there by myself.
In Dillon.
And outside, it's between Dillon and Melrose on the Big Hole River.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. It's 5,000 acres of wonderful, wonderful place. And mosquitoes. I mean, it's just, you don't know what mosquitoes are unless you've dropped your pants in a place like that. Because boy, it's a whole different world when they, Jesus. You could hear them outside while you were inside, and you become kind of phobic about the mosquitoes because you know they're just waiting for you. They're planning things, they're thinking, they just want your blood. But I'd ended up over there by myself and my Uncle Fred, my great Uncle Fred. He was about 85. He had false teeth with green gums. The false teeth had green gums. Why would you have green gums? I mean, I never did understand that one. And he was deaf. And he slept in the same pair of underwear, which I had to sleep with him. We shared a double bed in this log cabin. And he wore the same underwear from fall till spring, and then he would peel it off. But and there were snakes that lived under the kitchen floor that would come out in the morning and sit in the sun when the sun would come through the window, and it's a dirt floor. Right. And the first morning I saw him, I sat up in bed, and there's two big rattlesnakes on the floor. And Fred, and don't bother them, so because they go back, and so we didn't bother them. But I decided I was going to learn how to rope, going to be a cowboy. I had gotten some boots. I had some cowboy boots. And we had this a corral for, we fed all of the steers and heifers in a unit in the corral. We'd pull the hay in, and they would eat it off the wagon. You pull it out, load it, bring it back in, and just, and there was this huge area. So it was this mix of alfalfa being pulled off the hay, off the wagon, and cow shit. It would just it would be 2 feet deep in places. It was just, and we'd get the tractor in, and we'd blade it out and clean it out again and just keep it going. And so there's a set of corrals, and in the middle of it is a tack shack where we keep our saddles and stuff. So I ran a steer into the tack shed and shut the door on him. I had him in the tack shed. So I got my rope. I'm going to rope him when he comes out, right? And I'm all ready. So I figured, well, if I rope the steer, I better be able to hang on to him. So I tied the rope around my waist, and got the lasso out there, and I opened the door, and that steer come burning out through that door, and went right through the loop, went right into the loop, and it's over his neck, and he's going. That's when it dawned on me that I had tied myself to this steer that weighs about as much as a car.
Right.
And he's going down there, and then I'm immediately trying to get myself untied. When he hit the end of that rope, I just left my feet.
Oh, it just jerked you, right?
Oh yeah, it just takes you right out. And I as I remember it, I was looking pretty good for a minute because I was like water skiing through the shit, and the steer is heading for the other end of the corrals, and I'm up on my feet thinking maybe I can live. Yeah, at that point you've stopped trying to untie and you're just trying to hang on. And then something happened and I went down head first into the shit. The steer keeps going, gets to the other end, and he stops. And as soon as he stops, I realize that he stopped. I jump up and I'm trying to untie the knot, and you can hear him coming by. He's running for the other end, and he passes about 5 feet. And the little lion snake and there's shit. I mean, now off I go backwards.
Oh, you still hadn't untied?
I hadn't been able to get untied. I had tied this.
Oh, it was all slippery.
Well, yeah, it's all in the shit. You can't even find it, And every time he would hit, it would get tighter. It seemed like it was a very good knot. And we made a half a dozen passes up and down that corral before I got myself untied. And I plowed shit. I mean, yeah, you realize pretty quick that if you got to get a hold of the rope because you got to be going straight. Because if you go sideways, because you're tied in the middle and you're plowing shit. But, I mean, because it's shit. It's just cow shit. It's all wet. It's all sloppy. It's soupy. It's not hard. And every time I'd jump up and try to get untied, and he would go screaming by. He wouldn't just stand there. And so I lost my boots. My boots are gone. I'm not sure I still had socks on. The shit was, pounded down into my clothing. Was up my nose, my ears. Everything was just shit. And alfalfa. Shit and alfalfa. And so I kind of stumbled over to the cabin, and my mom had arrived by then, and she saw me. And she made me strip in the front yard.
Was she hose you off or something?
Well, we didn't have a hose. I was probably a bucket or something. I'm not sure how we got water. I probably went and got in a ditch. There would be a ditch right by the house. I probably washed off in that a bit. But remember, it was really difficult to get the shit out of your nose.
Yeah. Because it got little twigs of alfalfa in there too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's started turning into adobe brick in here. And I know that it's gone.
It's a building material.
Yes, it's awful. And I had to go out and I had to find. I can remember I could found one boot pretty easy, but the other one, it was like gone. I looked out there for the longest time. Finally found my boot. Got both my boots back. Yeah. Many adventures in those corrals. Horses, cattle. And the deer would come in the morning. You get up there, and you could go out behind the corrals, come up on them in the morning, and the deer would come in and eat the alfalfa at night, and then you could shut the corral gates, and you'd have a half a dozen mule deer in the corral. They were beautiful. Right. Let them out. Yeah, it was a good place. It was a lot of ducks, a lot of geese, a lot of wild game, horses, crazy people, dynamite.